go ahead and create a just a polygon cube. So the move tool is up here, but it also corresponds to the W key. So if I hit the W key, that's going to enable this move manipulator, and I can move it on one axis or another. Okay. If I pick it from the center there, that's going to move it in a multiplicity of directions, but all perpendicular to the picture plane, parallel to the picture plane. So, and how do I get it back to the center? Undo, right? So I've got multiple levels of undo. And what's the other one? How can I get this back to the origin? So over here in the channel box, I have numeric input there for the translations in X, Y, and Z. And that's kind of keeping track of the position in space where I am right here. And all I have to do is just grab those numbers, and I can just put a 0 in there. Yeah, so, all right, so these tools here, the move, rotate, and scale, they correspond to the W, E, and R keys. The W, E, and R are right up there, all in the same row, right next to each other, so you can use those hotkeys to, navigate quickly through, move, rotate, and scale. So if I'm moving this along the x-axis here, or let's say the z-axis, if you hold down the X key, okay, so the X key is going to toggle my grid snap. And you can see that this manipulator, the center of the manipulator, goes from a square to a circle. And that just means that there's some sort of constraint on there. So if I hold down the X key and move, it's going to snap to the closest grid spot on that axis. So let me move it over here. And if I just hold down the X and just continue to move it on the Z, it's not going to change any of the other axes. It's just going to change the Z. If I hold it this way, if I hold the X key and click on the red manipulator, it's just going to move it along that axis. And of course, if I pick the center, it will center it like that and snap it to the grid. And then, of course, rotate. We talked about these axes. What's the difference between a local and a world rotation axis? This is best illustrated, I think, with a sphere, because we're all used to looking at a globe. So I'm going to just create a sphere, and I'll scale it up. And then I'll hit the E key to rotate. How do I make that manipulator bigger? Anybody? So plus key, plus, minus, changes the size of the manipulator. So if I rotate this on the Z-axis like this, you can see that my rotation manipulator moved with the object. So in other words, the North and South Pole they're still the North and South Pole. So if I rotate it a little bit in Z, and then I want to rotate it on the Y-axis, it still respects that axis going through the North Pole. So the other way that this would work is if I double-click on the rotate tool here, and I say that I want my axis orientation to be world instead, then when I rotate this on the Z-axis, you can see that my manipulators stay put. And now if I rotate on the Y-axis, it's not going to rotate through the North and South Pole. It's going to rotate based on a vertical skewer that's going right up through the grid, and that's going to be constant. So it either stays relative to the entire grid and world, or it's relative to itself and keeps the axes correct.